Mr. Bear? You want a copy of Techromancer for Christmas? Well, I've got your Techromancer for you, Mr. Bear, I really do. Hi there! I didn't see you come in. I'm Kung Food, and welcome to the first episode of Still Dreaming, which is my hit web series about my favorite little thing in the world, the Dreamcast, which, as you all know, was Sega's third, well, more like 12th attempt at making a successful video game system. And unlike the Saturn and the 32X and the Sega CD and the Sega Game Gear and the Sega Master System and the whatever the fuck else they came up with, this actually was good, and people were just either too jaded by Sega shitting all over them, or they were holding out for the PS2 because apparently it looks just like Toy Story, or so I'm led to believe. And it failed. But if you're watching this, you already know about the Dreamcast. And if you don't, for shame, really. I'm pretty much, the purpose of this is I'm going to review all the Dreamcast games in my collection, which I believe there are about 38 to 42 in all. A game an episode. And so, please be patient and considerate as I knock out the kinks and whatnot, and try to get a good formula down. And, otherwise, I guess we'll get started. Of course, since this is the first episode of Still Dreaming, I'm going to do the game that was probably the first game for a lot of people that got the Dreamcast, and that would be the legendary, depending on how you look at it, Sonic Adventure. The game had some, like I said, outstanding graphics. No game had ever looked so good before back in '98, unless you were running a top-of-the-line PC and you had possibly gotten a hold of like Half-Life. This was the best looking game on the market. I mean, you look back at it now, and as you can see, I mean, the frame rate's really inconsistent. When the character models talk in the cutscenes, they kind of look like their head is trying to detach off to their body and fly away to a magical place. The gameplay is really solid. You play as Sonic and 6 of his annoying friends as they try to stop Dr. Eggman, who at this time was still called Dr. Robotnik, and they were trying to wean off the American name for him, so they called him Dr. Eggman as like a nickname, I guess. Sonic's game is the longest. His game does take precedence. It'll, my first playthrough, it probably took me about 10 hours to beat the game, and about 6 to 7 hours of that was Sonic's game, and the rest was the other 5 characters' games, like, combined. It was definitely about the last time in a 3D Sonic game, discounting Sonic on the Wii, where the character that the game is named after actually had any sort of real importance or relevance. And I have to say, as a 3D attempt at Sonic, you can tell they tried, but it was rushed. The camera is serviceable most of the time, but it will get swirly when you try to move it, or if you're in a cramped area. If you try to backtrack at all, the camera will hate you. Collision detection is generally pretty good. The controls are really tight. Sonic does exactly what you want him to do when you want him to do it. The levels are great, and a lot of them I think stand as some of the best levels to ever be in a Sonic game. Speed Highway is probably my favorite level ever in a Sonic game. It's just, I mean, take a look at it. It's ridiculously fast. It's got the cool techno metal theme song thing. And Could you imagine real cars trying to drive on this highway? I mean, I don't know whether to take the intersection and try to hug the side of the building without falling to my death, or whether to ramp my car onto the rotating platforms and hurry up and hit the brake or put it in park so that the platform could get done and then I can drive my car off of it and back into the tunnel. You know, the people of Station Square must lead really, really exciting lives. Overall, I have to say the game is just very fun for the most part. Playing as some of the sub-characters, I can see where Sega was going here. They really wanted to put some variety into the game instead of just playing as Sonic. But when his levels are as fun as they are, and his story is the most interesting out of the bunch with the exception of E102 Gamma, who is probably one of the cooler characters, the other characters' games are really hit and miss. Sometimes you wonder why they even bothered. You can literally beat Amy Rose's game in a handful of minutes if you really want to. Hers is ultimately the most pointless. They really do run the gamut. Amy Rose's almost play like Resident Evil 3, and you're trying to evade a robot. And they can be fun, but all the hiding stuff is ultimately dumb because you can just run out of the way of everything. Big the Cat is a disaster, and I don't recommend playing as him ever, except for the fact you have to you know, beat the game. But those little fishing stages are terrible, and there's not very many of them, so you will beat his game really quick. And if you know where the frog is and you know how to fish, you can beat his game almost as quick as Amy's. Knuckles' game is kind of fun because it's more adventure-y, but this constant ticking of your radar will probably make you shoot yourself. So just a forewarning, if you have suicidal tendencies, let your friend play Knuckles' game. Gamma's game is like a shooting game, and you shoot stuff to keep your time limit going, and his levels are actually kind of fun. I thought it was a neat touch that his first level is a training course where you shoot at Sonic and Tails dummies. Tails' game is actually probably the most fun outside of Sonic's, where there are races where you have to try and beat Sonic to the end of the level. But ultimately, you're just playing the same levels over and over and over again. I guess while I'm on the bad, I've got to say the voice acting is wildly uneven. I think Sonic and Eggman have great voices, and everybody else is really hit or miss. As far as the first step goes, I have to say the good really outweighs the bad. The story's interesting. There's really not much more I can say about Sonic Adventure that probably hasn't already said. I will say, avoid the GameCube version. They ported it to the GameCube, and it's got these so-called spruced up graphics that don't look a whole lot better than the Dreamcast version. And the camera, like the game, they broke it. It's like they took the game and they hit it with a hammer, and then they put some new paint on it, and then they put it on the GameCube. The camera doesn't work. A lot of the stuff that I used to be able to do in the levels that you're supposed to be able to do does not work. I can't run up the side of a certain building in Speed Highway no matter how much I try, and on the Dreamcast version there's no problem. The frame rate's even worse. It's just, overall, it's really terrible, and I would say avoid it. You can pick up the Dreamcast version for probably a hell of a lot less. And I guess that's all I've got to say about this.